In this video, I want to share with you some of the training techniques I use with my own survival students. I run a program at our local high school where I offer 2 different science classes for students to take. They receive science credit, plus they get some really good skills, survival skills that they can take with them for the rest of their lives. And if there's anyone out there that also does survival training and wants to share some of the ideas they have, maybe you work with other civilians like in search and rescue or first responders or something like that, please feel free to share with us some of the things that have worked for you so that we can just pass on that knowledge. Roll the intro. When I am training students, my target for those students is to be able to perform survival skills under stress. So how do I get from down here, lower left corner, up here to the students being able to perform skills under stress? It's a technique called scaffolding. We do a lot of knot work, and I'll just use one of the knots that we learned. It's called the trucker's hitch. It's got all sorts of great applications in survival and also just general outdoor use. I use it all the time, and this is one of those knots I tell students, you'll use it all the time once you get it. So we start with this blue area, guided practice. This is where I will literally walk through with the students how to do it step by step. I'll perform one part of the knot or the hitch, and then the students will follow along. Now we will do this as many times as needed so that the students feel comfortable that they can go to the next step, which is individual practice. This is where the students will spread out around the room or outside or wherever we're practicing and start working on this on their own. Now I will still offer all sorts of help when they need it, offer feedback on things they can improve, but the students at this point are starting to do their own practice, starting to develop their own muscle memory, and I'm more hands-off at this point. From there we go to low stress practice. And this is where I introduce a timer. And I do this for all the knots and all the critical survival skills. We start, for example, for the trucker's hitch, we'll start with like 60 seconds. And then we'll go to 55 seconds and then 50, all the way down to 30 seconds. By that time, the student has a really good grasp on how the knot works. Now from the low stress practice, we move up to higher stress practice. This is where we add all sorts of minor stressors to really help the student gain a lot of confidence. One of the first things I like to do once we get to this phase is turn the lights out. The students will practice their knot or whatever skill we're learning in the dark. They'll learn to feel how the knot's supposed to feel when they can't see it. And then another thing I'll do is we will add mock injuries. A splint on, or you might have a sling on, any number of things just to add a little bit more complexity so that you have to problem solve and figure out how to tie the knot one-handed. From there, we'll move outside into the weather, and a lot of times, especially where we're training at, the weather can be very windy, rainy, snowy. It's uncomfortable, but it's also very realistic. So we'll go outside and we'll perform these skills with whatever Mother Nature's throwing at us at the time. From there, we kind of capstone our skill with high stress, high pressure scenarios. And what these look like is you have all these factors in it, the time, maybe an injury, you certainly have the weather, and then you have the other element that we're kind of all familiar with traditional schooling, and that's a grade. How did you perform the task, especially under stress? And what I've found is that students actually respond really, really well to this scaffolding technique. And I guess I'd like to stress also with trainers, if you let your students know throughout this whole process that you care about them as people and you want them to be successful, I really am amazed at how many of my students can do pretty complicated skills flawlessly once we've gone through this scaffolding structure.